In Estonia, each person receives a unique, unchangeable 11-digit personal identification number from the government. Identification numbers represent individuals in both the physical and electronic realm. Primary electronic identity comes with the physical ID card, which is a mandatory identification document in Estonia. Other e-ID carriers, like the mobile ID and Digi-ID cards, are issued in addition to the ID card. The technical concept requires a person's sole control over the e-ID means. It uses a PKI solution, where a private key is generated and stored on the chip of the physical card. Keys for signing or authentication are protected with respective PIN codes. Estonia's e-ID is used for electronic identification, electronic signing, and the secure transfer of sensitive data. e-ID allows one to securely use a wide variety of state and private sector e-services while being time and cost efficient.
Have you ever wondered how did Estonia manage to get 98% of people securely declaring taxes online by the year of 2020? Or made it possible to vote online during our parliamentary or local elections or even European Parliament elections? Or why so many of your friends have been registering their business to Estonia? Well, the answer for that is actually pretty simple. We implemented a secure digital identity since the year of 2002. Today, 98% of our population have an electronic ID card. However, this all happened already 20 years ago. How did the process and the government, how did they manage to push this through so long time ago? And what were the biggest highlights from the decision-making part? You're going to hear about this today, and also you're going to walk with me through some of my own memories and highlights of using the advantages of a very secure digital identity. My name is Anett Numa, and I work as a digital transformation advisor at the e-Estonia Briefing Center. Today, every Estonian has a state-issued digital identity. How did the process start? Well, we have to jump back to the historical background. In the year of 1999, the electronic ID card was already introduced in our lovely neighborhood country called Finland. The Estonian government, and of course also our parliament, had their full attention on this entire process of implementation and tried to learn from our Finnish friends. There was one very essential thing that got our attention. Finland had decided to keep this card as a non-compulsory card, but when we were focusing on the numbers of people that were issued the card, that was pretty small. And that made us very concerned and wonder whether we should do this differently and legally make this card compulsory to absolutely everyone. That's what we did. And by the numbers today, around 46% of Finnish people have this card, identity card, and in Estonian the number, as I brought it out before, remains at 98. So that says a lot of things. The first Estonian ID card was issued already in January 2002, and the amount of people using the ID card, mobile ID, smart ID solutions, has been increasing every single year, and especially during the time when the pandemic hit the world. Estonian Parliament passed already a Digital Signature Act in March 2000, and it entered into the force by the end of 2000. And by giving also people a chance to sign documents fully online with these solutions, every single year our citizens save approximately 5 days per year. And when we talk about the cost by the government aspect, so the government is able to save around 2% of GDP every single year by providing our citizens a chance to also sign documents fully online. This number, 2% of GDP, is equal to the money we spend on defense and security sector to be a loyal member of NATO. And I think this is pretty great, right? To move on here, let's take a look on our ID card. How does it look and what kind of information do we have on a card? First of all, our ID card holds the name of the cardholder, a personal code. Then we also have the birth time, sex, cardholder citizenships, and of course also card number, with also when would be your expiry date as well. In addition to that, the card contains 2 certificates and they're associated with the private keys protected with PIN codes. Why I wanted to bring it out, and especially what kind of information do we have on a card, is that Estonia has followed the rule called less is more. Many countries have decided to do this in a complete different way and have a lot of information of their citizens based on this ID card. First of all, they have your eye color, also information how tall you are, and sometimes also even information where exactly do you live, what's your apartment number. My question to you who are listening today, would you feel safe having that much information on your card, especially home address? Even more, every single time you move to a new place and change your home address, you would need to get the new card or get the sticker on the card. Not very convenient, right? So we have decided to do that in a way that less is 100% much more. To move over here now, I have a tiny question to you, our audience right now. What's common about these features, these locations? Of course, you can think about, that's fantastic. There are wonderful palm trees, and it seems to be super sunny there. But why I wanted to show you these photos was because these photos have been taken exactly after 1 minute after when I had been participating in an Estonian elections. And if you're wondering, on the first photo, which is taken in the paradise island of Maldives, that there was an Estonian embassy or a polling station, then of course no. Or the second one, in my favorite city, Paris. No, there was no polling station, not the embassy. I was just able to open my laptop and use my electronic identity, and I was able to vote online fully by using this solution. But what else can we do with this identity card or smart ID, mobile ID solutions? There are plenty of things. First of all, we can sign documents online, and I also have one very great highlight or just a memory that I wanted to share with you. So I was traveling in Barcelona by the time when I got accepted to the university, and they kindly asked me to send back the document with my digital signature just in 1 day. I was supposed to come back to Estonia after 1.5 weeks. Of course, I didn't have to go there, find any kind of scanners and write my signature on paper. I was just able, with just half a minute, to sign my documents online and send it back to my university while being in Barcelona. Or also accessing all of our banking services, which is also possible fully online. And our banking sector has been a big help by providing us also the ID card readers. And if you would now take a moment after my presentation to go and check your wallet, and it would count us, how many different loyalty cards do you have there? I can tell you that I only have one single loyalty card, and this is my identity card. Yes, I don't need to have tons of different cards in my wallet, because I can also use, in order to provide my loyalty to the different private sector companies, shops and so on, by just using one single card. And then, of course, also I can get access to all of my medicals by using this card, even without having to make any physical visits to my doctor. I can call my doctor, they will write me a prescription, and in a couple of minutes I can just walk to the pharmacy and get access to my medicals. Or even I can order these medicals to home location, which is fantastic too. And even more wonderful, there are already a couple of countries, such as Finland, that I can travel to, and I can get access to my prescriptions, which are issued by the Estonian doctor, by using my Estonian card in Helsinki in pharmacy there. So this is where we are moving with having these solutions. And of course, also when the police would stop me on the way when I'm driving, I would like to check if my driving license has not expired. So they can also just type in my identity code to the system or check my ID card, and I can prove also that I'm able to travel and I have this valid driving license in a way as well. So there are many, many things that we can use this card for, and I have been really much also, I would say, like using the advantages of using this ID card as well. But with the last slide that I wanted to bring it out here was some of the lessons, and I want to share with you because I know that there are so many people that are listening to us, especially from the private sector, from different governments. First of all, if you're going to make these decisions and starting to implement the ID card, I'm asking kindly to keep everything very transparent, because people are going to trust you much, much more if you are doing this in a very transparent way so that they can understand how things work. Then, of course, also try to organize as many different campaigns as possible to raise people awareness and the knowledge how to use the systems, because this remains very, very, very important. And I'm never getting tired of saying that, but continue doing things together with the private sector, because they know much better how to do these things and they can support you also financially. Well, like the example from the banking sector that I brought it out before, that they helped us to also get access to the ID card readers for free, which was great as well. But one thing that is still very essential is that the way you communicate these changes in your state. If you just say to your citizens, to your voters, that this is how we're going to do things, our government has made a decision that ID card is going to be compulsory, you need to get this card now. That's the wrong way to do that. Please do start in a way that you're saying, well, these are the advantages that you can start using if you would get the card. And I do hope that my presentation today gave you a little bit inspiration why this card is so beneficial and what kind of advantages do we have with this. And of course, less is always more. So try to keep everything very, very short and simple. And I would end up with the dot here that I think it's pretty clear already that digital identity will be the most valuable attribute for each citizen in the future, and even today already. And it's each government's responsibility to make sure that safety has been provided in all possible layers. We have realized this in Estonia already many, many years ago. And I'm kindly suggesting all of you to focus on this as soon as possible. Hopefully, you're going to get some more inspiration from the next presenters in our digital discussion today. So I would like to say thank you for listening, and I wish all of you would stay healthy and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Well, Anett, thank you so much for being with us today, and thanks for this overview of what has been done in Estonia over the last 2 decades, actually. So quite a bit of time already. We've got several questions from the audience, but first a small reminder to you, dear audience members, that you can still vote on the task section. You can still reply to our question about the availability of electronic ID in your country. We will deal with the result of that poll after the next presentation. But for now, I want to focus with you on some of the questions that the audience has asked. The one with the most upvotes is, what are the biggest hurdles for eID implementation in other countries? What would you say?
Well, if I would think about this way, so I think still again we have to think about the transparency part and providing this great infrastructure side. I think this has been a very big lesson to Estonia, especially because that you need to create this kind of very secure infrastructure that it will be supported in so many ways. And definitely, as I said in my presentation many times, that when we see these advantages and people getting much more time in order to do other things in a way, so we have benefited a lot from by having this card. And yeah, I mean, still like you always need to be also up to date with your technology in a way, because of course when we even think about the implementation process in Estonia, our ID card infrastructure has changed a lot in time. So we have tried to do that more and more secure and using new technologies as well here.
And surely, I mean, we see that the situation is very different from country to country. The degree of political will, the support in general, is usually a bigger factor than perhaps financing, because digitalization is not as expensive as people usually make it out to be, I would say. Another question is, would you say it's possible to build an e-state without an e-ID?
I don't think so. I mean, it will be possible to provide people services, but is it safe? Do they feel safe by providing their own information? Well, I don't think so. So I would I would say if I would just compare, as I said, we implemented this in the year of 2002. We started with a physical ID card. I don't see that it would be necessary for each country to start with a physical card anymore, but you can still implement smart ID, mobile ID solutions. So there are many, many different methods, but everyone needs to have e-identity in a way. It doesn't mean a card itself, but it does not mean that it has to be a way. Either you have a personal code or just a very secure way. So
some sort of universal
exactly.
identifier.
You can't just have like, I don't know, a username and a random password that you just create yourself and you need to update once in a while. It has to be provided by the state. So, so I would say, yes, it's important.
I think the issue is also that, of course, today we already have e-IDs. It's just that we have separate e-IDs for every single portal, for every single website. Even if they are all secure, odds are that you will not have a different email address and a different password for every single account that you have online. So yeah, you just made it less secure again. When was the last time you gave a real signature?
Actually, it happened 1.5 years ago. Because 1.5 years ago, still we needed to, when we wanted to buy a new property, so an apartment, we needed to go to notary and sign the documents on paper. I'm happy to tell you that we don't have to do this anymore, because by the time of the crisis, this changed, and now we can also buy properties fully online by digital signature. But it was the last time that I needed to do that. It was very weird for me, because I was in the notary office and they asked me to sign a document on paper, and I was like, well, I have to remind myself, how does it look like? It was weird, but I'm so happy to see right now that we can do these things also remotely now.
For me also, I mean, being German, I came to Estonia 5.5 years ago. The first time I had to do a digital signature, I was very overwhelmed, like, what does it mean? How does it work? But yeah, if I would now think about what is my signature, what does it look like? Not quite sure I could do it exactly as it was before.
Exactly.
There were many more good questions, but sadly, this is all we have time for right now. So, Anett, thank you so much for being with us. A kind reminder to the audience, please do fill out the question under tasks and share your thoughts with us.